northern end of the ground so that they can keep Sims within goal-kicking distance and also keep him within drop-kicking distance, which is very significant. He's kicked already this season 13 field goals. Another ball to the South Sydney side. Longbottom comes up, gets the pass back to Lyle. Lyle going round the blind side, slams strongly to the ground there, but play on the St George 25. Walters fires it out to McCarthy. McCarthy on a Coote, standing wide, running straight into a wall of white defenders there. Play 10 yards from the St George 25, right in the middle of the field. A penalty against St George, Dick Huddett, and also Elton Rasmussen, quite obviously both of them in an offside position, infringing the 5-yard ruck. And we've got a player, a man that's very consistent with his boot, and he'll be well within range with this kick. It's only about 4 yards outside the St George 25 and about 15 yards off centre, and he'd almost have the breeze blowing directly with him in this kick. The flag's really moving fast on top of the flagpole. Sims moves in. It's a good kick. And the first score of the second semi-final, and South Sydney 2, St George 0. South Sydney may be being penalised here slightly. However, on with the go. The drop kick way straight into the arms of Preston, the St George winger. He runs into a strong tackle from James. 10 yards from South Sydney's 25. Clay to Smith. Smith then on to the big St George second row. Bowen, who runs into a whole heap of trouble here. 10 yards out from the South Sydney 25, and O'Neill's being brought out for a caution here, and the sweeping motion of Mr Pearce's arm then as he spoke to O'Neill indicates that a stiff arm tackle had been attempted. Field. Scores favour South Sydney 2 points to 0. St George ball. Smith onto Clay. Clay, a bad pass along the ground to Pollard, who does very well to pick that up. Pollard, who's paired off about a stone in weight over the last few weeks. Clay running from dummy half, played back in South Sydney's 25. Rasmussen onto Smith. Smith lofts a long pass out along the ground, and St George having some trouble finding the man with the pass here as Beath makes a strong burst and loses the ball in the tackle. Picked up there by O'Neill. O'Neill throws a bad pass along the ground once again. Both sides suffering from the same problem at the moment. Maybe the wind is playing some tricks out there. Onto Coote. On to little Ivan Jones. Jones gets a pass onto Sims, who drops it. It's picked up there by Gaznia. Number 3. Who's tackled 5 yards inside South Sydney's 25. So that's George in the white uniform, with Longbottom taking a long while to get off Gaznia then. Rasmussen running from the dummy half position. Gets a pass inside to Johnny King. And it's a try to the St George side. Good football from Elton Rasmussen and good backing up from Johnny King. And rather bad defence from South Sydney. The blind side of that ruck was wide open. And Rasmussen hurled his 15 stone at a rather flimsy defence there and was able to get his arms free and turn the ball back inside to Johnny King, who went over virtually without a hand being laid on him. A very good player. When he makes a mistake, immediately rectified so the opposition don't get an advantage. And another penalty to South Sydney. And this is loose arm. And Walsh comes up rather perplexed, showing that he had both arms around his props, but Mr Pearce adamant that the rain stopped here at the Sydney cricket ground. The breeze still blowing strongly. Sims gets the kick into the air, looks a good one, and the flags are up. So South Sydney once again hit the lead, 4 points to St George's 3. Playing the advantage rule, puts a scrum down on the St George 25. Still 4-3 in South Sydney's favour, and 11 minutes remaining of the first half. Penalty against Billy Smith, and the signal from the referee is that Smith did not retire behind his scrum. The crowd hushed now as he moves in. Gets it into the air, looks good, and the flags are raised. So South Sydney immediately move to a lead of 6 points to St George's 3. Now here, worst conditions we've had this year. And it's a penalty to South Sydney as the St George Packers moved off the mark, and good side from right to left across your screen, and they're in the white uniforms. They're trailing by 3 points. South Sydney lead 6 points to 3, and 5 minutes have gone in this second half. None of the crowd moving, but they are standing out there in abysmal conditions. Longbottom's kick is a good one, and what a good one from that range, about 45 yards out and at an angle, and he's raised the flags, and that could put new heart into this South Sydney side, leading by 8 points to 3, and into the wind. That was a great kick, and no doubt the whole South Sydney side will be rejuvenated by that fine play, 10 yards short of the halfway line. South Sydney running from left to right in possession now with Ivan Jones, their halfback, number 7, to restart play with the tap. Moves it out to Lyle, back to Jones, on to Sims. Sims comes round again, gets it to Coote. Coote bursting right up the middle here. Good play here as he comes to 10 yards from the St George 25. Good play from South Sydney there, a worked move and a move that came off beautifully. On to O'Neill. The crowd roaring now as they sense that St George may be in a little bit of trouble from this South Sydney side. A St George player down at the moment, but on with the game. Sims fires it out to Jones. Jones to Longbottom. Longbottom elects the kick, and he kicks well. It's near the sideline. King's there, falls on it and slides over the sideline on his back. Puts him down. Eric Sims to dummy half. Fires a long one out to Cleary, who's come into the middle of the field looking for possession here. Going to get some treatment too as they've stolen the ball from him, and Moses comes in to try to take the ball from Pollard. Smith fires a long one then on to Rasmussen. I'm sorry, to Barry Beath. Walsh to dummy half, and there's a penalty against the South Sydney side for infringing the 5-yard ruck rule, and this will give Dennis Preston the opportunity from about 27 yards out and almost in the middle of the field to register St George's first points by a goal. They've already scored 1 try, but they've been unsuccessful with their kicks at goal so far. 8 points to 3, South Sydney lead. Well, ironically enough, the sun shining through a break in the clouds here. The rain has stopped over the ground, but it's still raining away to the north, and who knows what the rest of the afternoon will bring. 12 minutes remaining, with Preston now attempting this goal from 27 yards out and almost in the middle of the field. And it's successful, so the scores now after 12 minutes of the second half: South Sydney 8, St George 5. Moses, and he gets up and plays it from this position. Walters underneath a heavy stiff arm there, slipped the pass to James, and here's McCarthy in possession now, and a good try. No, he may have made the line. Let's have a look and see. He's awarded a try. He's awarded a try as the players' momentum carried him over the goal line. Well, Moses made a good break up the sideline then, and as he was tackled, was able to get the pass back to James. James then got it back to the other South Sydney player. Normally they have been going straight to the grand final from their semi-final. And Sims's kick is successful, rubbing salt further into the St George wound. And the score now goes on to 13 points to St George 5. In possession during the game to squander the possession they have had by bad handling. Scrum going down about 20 yards out from South Sydney's line. And it's a penalty to South Sydney. About 2 minutes remaining, 13 points to 8 in South's favour. And South Sydney, as a result of this game, which looks like being a win to them, will have the opportunity to get all their players fit over the preceding fortnight, and St George will have to battle it out with the Canterbury Bankstown side in the final. Kick fails to find touch. taken by Langdon. It's got to Smith. Smith gets it on and there was support who knocks it on, and South Sydney's Ron Coote, who's covered an enormous amount of ground today for the South Sydney side, is there to position himself. And there's Ivan Jones on the go for South Sydney, the little halfback, another player that's done some good work for the South Sydney side. Walters to dummy half, about a minute and a half remaining. Fourth tackle. Souths want the ball out of this area of the field. To Moses. Moses to McCarthy. Out to Coote. And he's tackled 10 yards outside his 25. The scrum going down 10 yards out from the South Sydney 25. 13 points to 8. South Sydney lead, and time is almost up. The hooter will go any second. It's a St George ball, the hooter's gone. And there was a knock-on by Billy Smith at the base of that scrum, and South Sydney have won the second semi-final of the 1967 Rugby League season by 13 points to 8. And the scorers for the South Sydney side were McCarthy a try, Eric Sims 4 goals, and Kevin Longbottom a goal. For the St George side, a try to Dennis Preston and a try to Johnny King, and goals one to Dennis Preston. So that's the story of the game so far as it's gone. The possession has been critical for the South Sydney side. They won the scrums by 16 to 13 in the overall match, and the penalties have gone the way of South Sydney by 13 to 11. It's true to say that South, in the early part of the game, should have capitalised more on the possession that they received, but they've done an enormous amount of running around. I think the mobility possibly of the South Sydney pack with Coote, McCarthy only was injured. Even Scott, the replacement St George South Sydney player who covered a lot of ground in defence. Walters also was very good in defence for South Sydney. John Sattler led the South Sydney side in pretty good fashion. The St George side disappointing. Their handling under pressure was not good, and several of their players had substandard games. So South Sydney move into the final of the into the grand final of the 1967 competition, and St George will now battle it out in the final with the Canterbury Bankstown side.